Hey friends, welcome to the Energy Independent Show, where we talk about everything energy, including with guests like Chad, who are in more than just renewable energy. Some people may scoff at the idea of a partnership between fossil fuels and renewable sources of energy, but nevertheless, one does exist. That's right, solar energy and wind energy are both important parts of the intricate systems that bring energy to the market. The market being you and me as consumers, fossil fuel products included, most obviously gasoline. So pole-mounted solar systems, power systems, and a lot of renewable sources are a big part of the process for developing oil and gas in the process. These solar power systems generate power to charge batteries that in turn power any number of data and telemetry systems that are part of any liquid fuel pipeline. Unlike generators and wind turbines, photovoltaic solar has no moving parts, so consequently no downtime. And solar electric systems never need fueling or an overhaul. That's why oil and gas generators are increasingly specifying solar electric systems into their projects. So the solar professionals behind the scenes at Energy Independence Group have years of experience in the solar products industry while meeting the needs of our business clients in every industry. We will be talking to an oil professional today about the production of energy partnerships for that solar and oil. Solar energy helps oil production and efficiency, and you wouldn't be able to power the machines to make solar products without oil. So today we will be talking with Chad Hathaway from the oil industry, a local leader in our community. He is the owner and founder of Hathaway LLC and Payzone Directional Services. In 2011, 2012, and 2013, Hathaway LLC was named the fastest growing privately owned company in Kern County by Inc. magazine and was named the Teamco 2013 West Coast E&P Company of the Year. Chad is the co-founder of Kern Citizens for Sustainable Government and the Kern County Energy Foundation. He also currently serves on the board of California Independent Petroleum Association. Chad employs 30 plus employees with Hathaway LLC here in Kern County and is a leader in the community for the oil industry. Small businesses like his are the companies that keep this community going. Owners like him invest in the community in the long term and improve oil production in our economy. We get a lot of business from professionals in the industry like him and to help us promote what we're doing on the other side with solar energy. So thank you for being on the show, Chad, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we like to begin. The first question would be, what motivated you to get into the energy industry?
I really love what I do. I love what the oil and gas industry does for not only Kern County, but also for the nation. I think, you outlined a lot of just relationships that exist between alternative energy and also conventional energy. And yes, we do work really well together in many different circumstances. But I just appreciate that we power the nation, that we power everything. That most of the majority of all the transportation fuels are all oil derived. I think what we do is important, not only to Kern County, but also to the world and to the nation. So it's nice, it's especially in a state like California where we import a majority of the petroleum that we actually consume on a daily basis.
Right, and that's a topic. Before I go into question two, on a side note, I believe that we should produce oil in California if we're going to use it in California. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think we definitely should be using oil from here, and we should be doing more of it because we are the most regulated industry in the face of the planet. And we are importing oil from places where they're not regulated and they don't share the same values that we do. One thing else about oil that I really appreciate a lot is the incredible people that work in our industry. We have some of the smartest and brightest people, and what we do in our business is extremely complicated and extremely challenging, and in multiple different basins all around the world. And our folks deliver that product to the market in more safe and efficient manner than I think any other industry on the face of the planet. And so I think what we do is amazing too. I'm really proud of our industry and the amazing things we get accomplished on a daily basis.
Yeah, a younger version of myself may not have understood that oil when I was in college was so important. And I wrote ethical papers about it, and I believe that the energy industry has responsibility to, in the limitations of oil, at some point peak oil may be reached. There's a responsibility to make sure energy is still available by developing other sources. But in the same way, I believe that the renewable energy has a responsibility to not shut down what got us here. So I'm glad you're on to talk about this with us. On question number two, you're an entrepreneur, but you're heavily involved in oil and gas. Can you tell us about your company?
Yeah, so we employ anywhere between 16 and 30 people typically. With as capital projects slow down, our margins based on the price of oil, but we also buy derivatives, which are products that help us keep a flat price. But we still are very conservative based. We operate in the San Joaquin Valley, all the way up to Northern California, where we operate natural gas wells as well. So we have about almost 300 oil and gas wells throughout the state of California. Service business, which we just closed down about 3 months ago because of the downturn, has drilled wells in pretty much every basin of the country. And we do directional work. And so we were the highly technological aspect of the telemetry that steer the wellbore. So when you have directional drilling and stuff like that, we had the technology and the tools, and we implemented that across the country. So those were my two largest investments in enterprises over the years. But we're also major real estate owners in Kern County. We participated in multiple different mineral-related transactions, and also solar and communications, and do that as well. I've owned a baseball team over the years. Invested in agriculture. We actually farm wine grapes and just sold our pistachio holdings, and also commercial and residential real estate. Dabbled in that a little bit too as well.
Right. So as many listeners can see, the oil and gas industry really does support other industries, including solar, and it really does work together. We all benefit from oil. Can you tell us on question three, how important is oil and gas to Kern County?
It's the most important industry in Kern County. We have 7 of the top 10 taxpayers are oil and gas companies. When oil price hurts, everybody hurts. And even though we are number one also in other alternative forms of energy like solar and wind, there's no other solar or other oil and gas or other alternative energy based companies are anywhere near the contributors to the tax base that oil and gas is.
Right.
So we're a huge part of it. We employ the most people. I'm not the most people. We employ some of the most highest paid people with their average base salary about $80,000 a year for most of our folks. It's a really important industry to Kern County. In fact, when we do well, we all do well, and when we do bad, everybody does bad. So we're very important.
Yeah, Richard Chapman from Kern Economic Development Corporation was on, and he really emphasized the importance of oil and gas, in addition to the other energy that's happening. But we really lead here in Kern County, and it's nice to talk about that for people who don't know how important Kern County is, how important oil is, and how important oil and gas development are to the continuous development of solar in our industry. We get a lot of business, really smart engineers, really smart, talented people that are some of the brightest people I've met. And so how much oil is produced in Kern County?
We're, and there's a debate. I last statistic I saw, we were the 7th largest oil producing county in the United States. But then the news came through their day and said we're the 5th. So I don't know. I think it's the 7th based on my data and the EIA data, but we were number one for a longest period of time before the shale boom hit. And when the shale boom hit, it kind of knocked us down the ladder a little bit. So I'm sure it goes up and it goes down, and to be able to track it accurately on a monthly basis would be very difficult.
Yeah.
But you did hit the nail on the head. And one thing I don't know if we get to this in our questions, which I think we do down the road, but yeah, there is a very symbiotic relationship between solar, especially, and oil and gas. And I'm seeing that emerge tremendously more so in the last couple of years than I ever have in the last couple decades of my business, or I say 15, 16 years. So not quite 2 decades.
And I think there's huge opportunity to meet the demands of oil pumps and distribution pumps and whatnot with solar power combined with solar or with storage, because solar is intermittent. And in order to meet the demand of major motors like that, you're really going to have energy management and energy storage. So on question number 5, in a place like California or like Hawaii, where electricity prices are high, how important is energy efficiency, energy management to the profitability of the oil industry?
It's extremely important. I'm glad you asked that question. We manage our operating costs very, very closely. And I say that because what we take and we rank our highest expenses, and we don't just focus on the lowest expenses like paper clips and pencils. We look at actually what's our highest operating expense, and electricity is by far the largest operating expense we have. Now, I won't get into why I think that our electricity prices are so high and how I don't agree with that,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it is what it is. And still, the reality is we live in a place where we have high electricity. Should we? No, but we do because of mandates and other things that we're doing to go to where we want to as a society.
Mm.
So we have to look at different ways to do that. So we do. We look at it extremely closely. You'll see some of the biggest solar projects in Kern County are actually supplying oil and gas fields. As far as direct use inside the fence distribution. So we're looking at PPAs right now. We're looking at different types of agreements, even looking at, used to be, we look at, hey, what's the ROI on drilling an oil well versus putting in solar? We've been doing this for several years now,
Right.
because, and then also the carbon offset benefits too, as well, with the emission credit program. That's huge for people that are in thermal production, because you can actually offset your emissions, even though I think we have some of the lowest emissions in the nation. We still can do that with a larger scale solar project as well. So it's a very important part of our business.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're on, because I appreciate the innovation that your company and other really smart people in our community are, that, not only are you doing good for the environment by making your operation more efficient, creating a lot of jobs and wealth in our community, which I really appreciate. So if you're listening to the show right now, I encourage you to like our page, join. If you have any questions or any comments for Chad, go ahead and drop them in the message box. But we encourage you to like, join, and share. Energy is important in our economy. It's important for our world. And it's important that we support people like Chad, who are leading these efforts. So on question number 6, does the oil and gas industry deploy solar and energy storage? I mean, this is obvious. We've already talked about it, but do you have some examples, or what are you seeing in that way?
Yeah, we're looking at while I drive by I think it's a 20 megawatt project going in the Pozo Creek field right now. I don't know if it's 20 or 25. I think it's 25. Obviously, we see a lot on huge project going on the west side that Air has actually put together over the years. We see it. It's become way more prevalent. We're looking and working with a group right now that has finally offered some power purchase agreement numbers on a 5 megawatt project that makes sense for us. So we're seeing that come down to, as that price comes down, it's getting more and more attractive. And just depending where you're at and the amount of volume you handle, your question about sustainability and I think we talk about that a lot, or your statement about that is important to us. And so it's becoming way more realistic and way more prevalent than it ever was before in the past.
Right, absolutely. Well, I've always thought it would be great, just efficiency wise, for solar to power, pumps that are providing the oil and gas that California demands, and the rest of the nation, for that matter, in the world. But it's never been a better time. I'm a finance guy. I went to Cal State here at Bakersfield, and I'm just a numbers guy. But well, more, we do solar, but the numbers are the impressive part to me. But oil and gas people for years have always said, if it's not a 3-year payback, I don't even want to talk. You just, what are you concerned about? Or what are you talking about if it's not 3 years or less? So, but what we're seeing is the cost of solar has come down dramatically, development cost, and with combination of energy storage, we're seeing huge opportunity. I'd love to talk to you about powering your facilities with a PPA or storage or whatever. And I'd encourage anybody that's watching to contact Chad about that, because we need leaders from the rest of the world to join with us as we power the world. So how would you say on question 7, how has the oil and gas industry managed to operate in the middle of nowhere? Like, how has microgrid technology worked for oil and gas in the past and now?
I'm not sure what you're referring to when you say microgrid, but we basically, we can operate with varying powering mechanisms, natural gas being one of them. Most of the places where we operate, we have access to electricity, so that's important. But one thing that people have to remember, oil and gas operations, or most of ours at least, operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that have operated, I sit in a lot of places, but places I can think of that have been operating off natural gas for a long time, where that natural gas supply is depleted, or they haven't been able to develop more of it, that now all of a sudden you're looking at a massive infrastructure project like bringing in power or something like that. which sometimes isn't doable. So you've got some of that going on. We see that in these smaller properties quite a bit.
Yeah, I see opportunity for solar and storage on an economics of scale level to to help the extraction of energy in places where the grid doesn't go. I see huge opportunity there, and we've seen it happen in places like Texas and other places where independent grids are operating outside of the utility. And that's, the oil industry is led in that way. The renewable energy is calling it microgrid technology, but you guys have proven it with automatic transfer switches and all of that it can be done.
Yeah.
And Kern County has really proven a lot. So on question number 8, how does Kern County lead in environmental standards for the state, the nation, and the world? And what have you seen in your efforts?
Well, we work as an industry together a lot. I mean, we have a very strong trade association and 2 large trade associations for our industry. So up until about 3 months ago, Kern County had one of the strictest environmental impact reports in the state. We did a county-wide EIR and contributed, I think we contributed over the last 3 or 4 years over $70 million towards air mitigation credits, which I think no other industry has done that much in that quick of a time. But we felt like we were on the cutting edge. Unfortunately, there's groups that, and I think you see it in alternative too. There's people who just say, we don't want you here no matter what. And that EIR was just recently overturned by a group by the name of Center for Biological Diversity, which sues, I know, to ban a lot of alternative projects going in, wind farms, solar farms, stuff like that. So and Sierra Club as well. So we just got that EIR upended. So we felt like we were doing great things and on the cutting edge, but they actually overturned it for a lack of data on noise. So it wasn't everything else we covered, but so we had to redo that whole EIR. But we felt like we were special, and we spent, I don't know, as an industry, like $17 million just doing that study.
Wow.
But we really, we are in the basin, South San Joaquin Basin, and have one of the most challenging air pollution issues, more so than anywhere else, I think, in the nation. I mean, as we're kind of stratigraphically trapped in the bottom of a basin where we've got traditional wind direction pointing to the south. So most of the pollution ends up in the South San Joaquin Valley. So our industry has been looked at, I think, more heavily than any other industry. And I say that because I'm in a lot of different industries, but we have done some pretty significant things. I mean, now we're down to the point to where we basically inspect every single physical connection. So imagine your house, and imagine every piece of plumbing where it connected. We're now being required to actually inspect at that level. So if there's any potential emissions coming from our facilities, we really, really, really watch that closely. So I don't think there is another industry that's in Kern County that is more regulated, that is more overall responsible than our industry. I can really honestly say that. And because we have big companies and we have smaller companies like ours that believe in it, and we believe where we live and how important it is to be part of the value system that we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I couldn't help but notice when the quarantine started that the air quality was a lot better, and it wasn't from the cars in our community. It was from the cars in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and different parts of the state. Their pollution comes down to our valley, and we kind of get the blame for it because we're the ones providing them with oil. So I'd encourage the state, if you're going to drive cars, and we have to keep in this transition doing, utilizing the oil and gas that we have. But if we're going to do that, why should we import it where the standards are so low overseas, and tankers across the ocean, those oil spills aren't near as bad as the ones on land here as well. Those tankers use a lot, they produce a lot of pollution in the air. They're one of the largest polluters in the world. So if it were logical, it's easy to pick on Kern County and other places to say you're doing something if you're in government. But the reality is, if we're importing oil, we're polluting more by doing that, and we're taking away the jobs from hardworking folks in our community. So it's really a pleasure having you on. And in that regard, number 9, for the people who, because we all agree on a lot of things, how can oil and gas, solar and energy storage work together in the future and now?
I just think we have what we're seeing happen just organically in the market. We're seeing the price points come down. We're seeing the investment in solar that enables us to partner with them to do the projects that make sense. And I mean, when you got electricity prices rising to like 15 to 17 to 8 on our industrial side per kilowatt hour, it makes a heck of a lot of sense to really look at PV and inside the fence stuff. So I mean, it's just going to happen organically. It was kind of forced by the cost, and what else can we resort to? But it's just going to continue to happen. I think the companies that are in the solar world, and in the mainly solar, because really the wind doesn't apply, because most of the valley floor, we don't have that capacity. But I think the companies that are willing to go in, get their hands dirty, look over the accounting, look over the net metering, making it easier for the oil and gas company, because the bigger companies can do this more on a different scale. But there's a lot of companies like mine and in the middle that we don't have the resources to actually start doing the work. But I think the vendors that really have their stuff together and can get their price points and make it easy, either from a PPA type system, or maybe a company, find a pathway for financing for a company to do that on their own. Those are things that I think you get a lot of people looking at, and looking at smaller systems. I mean, it doesn't have to be a 5 megawatt or a 10 megawatt. Like, we're looking at a 5 megawatt. That's a big system. That's a 25-acre footprint, we're going to be on. We don't have to do that. There's a lot of properties we have there, like you said, the microgrid type stuff, small wells here and there. If somebody can come up with a solution where that makes sense, where it's not cost prohibitive, and I think that's a great idea. I think more entrepreneurial ways like that, because eventually, the solar market, in my opinion, is so congested. There's so many people. I was talking to a friend of mine who does solar a while ago, and he's like, I've got 60 different competitors, and the only way I can win is I win in the marketplace. And it's like, one goes down and two more pop up. But, eventually they're going to get tired of fighting over the rooftops and say, hey, there's an industrial world out there of good paying customers, good companies to work for in the oil world that we should probably go out there and start paying a little bit more attention to.
Right. Well, this is you have our thoughts in mind. I mean, there's not a lot of companies that can do commercial projects that are in the solar industry. There's not a lot of companies that certainly can do industrial. We've been advised by people in the oil and gas industry, and that's our background, some of us at Energy Independence Group. But what we see is an opportunity with the cost coming down for partnerships between local, mid-sized independent producers like you and reputable companies that are capable of building those mid and large size industrial projects in a way that will astound people, I think. But it's all about the financial model and the partnership, and working together as a team. I think it's doable. Love to talk with you more about that after the show. But do you have, on question number 10, before we let you go to our audience, do you have any uplifting advice, any words of wisdom, maybe a quote or something in these challenging times?
We have a bunch of quotes strung up throughout the office. A couple of them are Lou Holtz quotes, the football coach. And it's sad because, at first we were like, because we're an essential industry, we're here working separated apart from each other. But, I just think right now, I saw a really cool shirt there. It is, to keep calm, put your mask on. I don't, I'm a big picture guy. I think we've got to find out and figure out ways to get back to work. And that to me is the best thing we could all do, is not ask how we can't, but see how we can. And that's, to me, is the most important thing we have to do as a country right now. I mean, I just went in for my COVID-19 test today because I have a procedure next week, and it wasn't very fun, but I did it and I understood, and I'm just being part of the solution, I hope. But I just think we got to get back to work. And if we don't, we're going to have a whole heck of a lot more problems than COVID-19, which we already have obviously.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it's obvious to me. I have an education. There's other people that have been on the show that talk about the economic development and the foundation that energy in general, but particularly the longstanding oil industry has really had on our community, the world, society in general. But energy is extremely important. Jobs are extremely important. I think we can create jobs and reduce pollution by innovative things like, not importing oil. I mean, wouldn't it be great if we could create jobs and reduce pollution by not shipping it across the ocean? These are the kind of conversations we need to have to move forward to accomplish mutual goals that everyone has in our society. And so again, I thank you for joining us, Chad. If you are watching this, you're listening, we encourage you to join the Energy Independence Group on Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere on social media. We're going to have guests like Chad on. Maybe we'll have Chad on again. He's got a lot of information to share. So again, thank you for joining us, Chad. You were very informative and very inspiring on how we could all work together and keep this energy and jobs flowing.
Thank you.